Hi, welcome everybody to our webinar on the safe places to work and what we have all learned from the great organizations that participated in our survey and the response we got back from women across India actually. So we're not, as you all may have seen from a prior webinar, the safe places to work is really a survey designed to evaluate organizations in India on the degree of safety and inclusiveness they provide to their women employees. Really, the need has come out of the fact that we now have, a law to prevent sexual harassment of women at the workplace. So this law was enacted in 2013. Thereafter, there has been a slow but steady uptick towards creating greater awareness with respect to prevention and prohibition of sexual harassment at the workplace. So our survey really had, a whole bunch of questions, and we'll touch upon some of those responses as well. But these are your panel of experts that we got on board. Really people with credibility and integrity who sort of guided the Rainmaker team on the survey, how it should be conducted, what are the kind of questions, how to finesse the questions, and so on and so forth. So Dr. Helen Joseph, Mr. Vivek Patwardhan, and Sandhya Menon, all three were on our panel and sort of ensured that we kept our survey as straight and narrow as we could. These, of course, are some of the organizations. These are all the organizations, in fact, that were certified as a safe place to work. So you can see all the names of the organizations that were certified as a safe place to work. And it's one of these organizations that we have the privilege of having on our webinar today, the Harbinger Group. So we will go into a little more detail about the Harbinger Group in a bit, but these are your organizations that were certified. And this is some of the data around, sort of the degree of harassment that women said that they faced at the workplace. Again, we have been through this before. So those of you who want to dive deep into the survey are welcome to download the full text of the survey from the Rainmaker website. It's all there. And that's our guest for today, Mr. Neville Postwalla, who heads up the talent management function at the Harbinger Group. So we are going to he's joining us today to tell us a little bit more about what really makes the Harbinger Group special, how they sort of ended up being one of the winners of the Safe Places to Work survey. What are the different initiatives they have at going on at the Harbinger Group. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about the Harbinger Group. It's a leading global provider of software products and services from 1990, in fact. So the Harbinger Group is headquartered in Pune. And the group companies include companies like Harbinger Systems, Harbinger Knowledge Products, and Harbinger Interactive Learning. Now, I don't want to take up too much time in telling you about the Harbinger Group because I'd rather let Neville do that, who's really been there at the Harbinger Group, and he knows the company really well. But the Harbinger Group is a global organization headquartered in Pune. They have offices in Redmond and in Dublin, both in the United States. That's the Harbinger Group. And then we have Neville Postwalla, who I've had the pleasure of meeting and interacting with on a number of occasions. He is the head of the talent management function at the Harbinger Group and has significant experience in digitization and automation of the human resources lifecycle. He's helped build excellent people experiences, creating world-class and scalable HR processes, designing new age learning interventions, establishing leadership success, and optimizing meaningful CSR programs. So this is something that's very interesting, and Neville will be addressing this later on during our session as well. Neville, interestingly, is an avid speaker, loves to share his views, and has been been invited to deliver keynote addresses at a number of different events, including most notably the 2019 Dun & Bradstreet People Leaders Summit on Reimagining HR, right? But here's what makes Neville really interesting. Neville is a theater actor and has performed in a number of plays in Mumbai and Pune. And he considers playing on stage, a sort of total stress buster and a confidence builder. So for those of you out there who are looking for tips on how to really manage stress and boost confidence, well, Neville's got this tip for you as well. He's a blogger and a food connoisseur. So Neville, I think even 24 hours a day are not enough for you, given everything that you have on your plate, so to speak.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on this webinar. Yeah, I'll start with the fun stuff first. Yeah, acting is something that I really love to do. Ever since I was a kid, and all of us have done it, trying to find ways of not completing your homework and getting a chance to go out of the house rather than studying. So I think that's from when, from that time onwards, the acting, I realized it's so important. But, actually, I love getting up on stage. I love, kind of getting into different types of roles. It is actually something that I really enjoy doing. And like you correctly said, yeah, it's a good stress buster after a hard day's work. Getting together with friends, catching up, figuring out different ways of your body language, how to put, actions and words in sync. So yeah, I love that. And obviously, like you said, I may not be a connoisseur of food, but I love food. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. But a little more about Harbinger actually. So like you said, yes, we are based out of Pune. We are pretty much an IT services organization. We have about 750 people working with us. And what we do is we focus primarily in the HR tech domain, or the HR technology, HR tech and learn tech domain. And by that, what I mean is we work with companies, product companies who are building HR products. So whether it's a company based out of the US who wants to build an employee engagement tool that's going to take big data and use artificial intelligence to throw up insights, we can actually help build something like that. Or if it's whether it's building a benefit platform, for organizations, we have done that kind of work. Or whether it's onboarding, I think in a situation like this, pretty much onboarding needs to be done all online. So we have done various applications for our customers where onlining has been done, background verifications, performance management, surveys. I mean, pretty much everything under the entire HR umbrella is what we have worked on along with our great customers. So HR tech and learn tech is what we do. Harbinger Interactive also builds very engaging and interesting e-learning software. So whether it's taking an existing classroom-based or instructor-led training and converting that into a digital medium and providing interactivity, that is something we can do. We can modernize e-learning. So I think everything around HR tech and learn tech is pretty much what Harbinger does. So yeah, so that's a little bit about the organization. I've been with Harbinger for a little over 5 years now. I'm thoroughly enjoying, being with Harbinger. It's a great company. It's a fantastic place to work. I think the culture is really unique. I think we are definitely a safe place to work without a shadow of doubt. And probably as I go on and talk a little more, you guys will get a little more understanding of, why I think we're a safe place and a great place to be.
Fabulous. So look, I want us to spend a little bit of time, in fact, talking about what makes the Harbinger Group special, what makes you all tick, and what makes you really a safe place to work. I mean, when we were parsing through the sort of results, we realized that in particular, why Harbinger Group did really well is because some of the key questions like, whether women have experienced sexual harassment at the workplace by their supervisors or seniors or managers, those questions like that, the answers were all very, very positive in favor of the company, meaning that women actually had not experienced any such, or very, very negligible number of women had experienced such a negative atmosphere at the workplace. So most of them had rated the organization very high. The other thing that particularly stood out was the fact that the level of awareness, again, with respect to the internal committee and the POSH law, etc., was also very high. So, I mean, clearly you've the organization and you have worked hard to get there. What do you can you share some of the, sort of best practices with us? What have you done that has really got you this kind of accolades and this kind of, you've really built a wonderful environment clearly at the Harbinger Group. So what do you attribute that to?
I think I think it's the culture that's actually responsible for this. I mean, if you walk into any of the offices, you'll see a real cool culture in the organization. Um, Prevention of sexual harassment, the POSH committee, or the internal complaints committee is a very, very active committee that we have. POSH, we have taken an online program. We've made it online, actually. I mean, if we do e-learning, it makes sense to have something online. So we have a detailed POSH awareness program that we conduct. And everybody in the organization, whether the person is an employee or contractor, he or she is going to come in contact with our employees, and we make sure that everybody who's working with us has to 100% comply with this. And when I say comply, it means he or she has to go through the course, which is about, I would say, about 30 to 40 minutes. And at the end of the course, there's an assessment that we have built to actually check whether some of the practices or the concepts that have been explained in the course have been understood by the person, and he or she has a decent awareness of that. So people who don't clear the assessment have to take the course again. We don't have too many people who don't clear the course, but the point is it's a 100% compliant. And within 15 days of joining, we make sure that people take the course. In case they don't, then somebody from the HR team actually calls up the person and makes sure that the person does the course and explains to them the reason about why this course is important. It's just not a tick mark that we're looking at, but I think this course is one of the ways in which we build our culture. So that's one. I think the other aspect that we do in POSH is every year, all our support staff, so whether it's our drivers or whether it's our security guards or whether it's the housekeeping people who help us with cleanliness in the office, we make sure that they also undergo the POSH program and they understand their rights, as well as understand what constitutes a sexual harassment under the law. And we have an external person, one of our ICC members, our external panel members, who comes down and does it in the local language so that it's actually explicitly clear to them. Otherwise, it would really not make sense doing it in English. So there's 100% compliance. We build this culture around. Like I said, our internal complaint committee is extremely active. We meet very frequently. Not only we discuss POSH and stuff like that, but we also discuss ways in which we can make the workplace safer. If we can change some of our practices, whether we can change some of the ways in which we are doing things, how can we give employees a better, feeling of being safe in the organization? And I'll just take one example that came out of these meetings, which we've implemented, which has had tremendous benefit in the organization, and people love it. So what we have done is, in case an employee leaves the office late, and when I say late, I mean about 9 o'clock, they have to kind of mention on an Excel sheet before they check out what is their emergency contact number. We have their phone number, and we also ask them to mention which area they're going to in the city. And what happens is a security guard calls up after a specified period to actually check up with the employee whether he or she has reached home safely. And only when the security guard is convinced that the employee has reached home safely, do they kind of put a tick mark against that particular person's name. And this happens irrespective whether you're male, whether you're female. Anybody who leaves home has to have fantastic. This process implied. And the emergency contact number comes in case, for example, somebody's battery conks off during the way, or the person is in a low range area. Then we make it a point to contact the emergency contact number and tell the emergency contact person to get back to us to make sure that the employee has reached back, home safely. And I think this practice is really well received by the employees. In the various surveys that you do, we keep on getting this point coming out that, this is a small way in actually showing that Harbinger really cares for the employees and its safety. And I don't know, maybe in the survey as well conducted by Rainmaker, it probably would have come out. Yeah. So that's a little bit what I wanted to share.
No, that's fantastic, Neville. Clearly, that's the kind of those. I think culture building really is not something that happens overnight. It is something that is the organization works towards it over a period of time. And I think it's the details that matter, right? The small things. It's not really a big announcement, but it's a little details that you focus on day in, day out. The small things like ensuring that every employee is safe, irrespective of gender. those are all the kind of little ticks that it adds up to really creating an environment that everybody feels safe, and not just the women, but everybody feels safe. No, that's very, very helpful, Neville. And I guess this is what has led to the Harbinger Group also having. It seems like from your, I understand that your gender ratio today is very favorable in that you have about 42% of your workforce are women. That's a pretty good number if you look at generally the average numbers being much lower in amongst Indian corporations. So what do you attribute that to? I'm guessing that a lot of it has to do with the right culture being built within your organization.
Yes, we're very thankful that we have such a high, diversity ratio of women working with us. I think if you ask me what are we specifically doing, I think it's the culture that has actually grown from the ranks, wherein for example during the interview process, I think we were very, very clear to our interviewers, and we've trained our interviewers in such a manner that gender should not make a difference to people. So that's one. We also have some incentives. I mean, for example, in our referral scheme, where employees can refer their friends to join the organization. In case an employee refers a female candidate, then there's an additional referral bonus that he or she gets if the person actually joins.
Fantastic.
And Anthony, not only for women, but to be more diverse, we're encouraging differently able people to be hired. So in case a differently able person also is referred and selected, he or she gets a special referral bonus over and above the standard referral bonus that is applicable. So I think these are a few things that we do to make sure that we're kind of pretty much diverse in terms of gender. Also, one interesting thing that I personally do is whenever we have our salary increments or our salary revisions, I make it a point to actually make sure to check whether the increases or the increment percentage for the men and the women are equal. And I make it a point to do this myself, and I've been doing it for the last 4 years or so. And not only in the terms of salary increments, but I also look at the promotions to see whether women are getting promoted as much as men. And I'm happy to say in the last 4 years, it's just been happening pretty much equally. So there's no issue in that sense, which actually goes to prove that the managers who are recommending the salary increases, or the managers who are recommending people to get promoted, are not thinking about male, female, or things like that. So I think that is one more thing that I think Harbinger's culture is quite unique about.
Oh, that's clearly fantastic, and I think it seems to me that what the Harbinger Group is doing is probably ahead of most other corporates in India in terms of thinking of all of these little things. Like I said previously, the culture lies in the little details, and I think it's these little details that you have been focused on, that your organization's been focused on, that's really making a clear difference. So I think clearly the people in your organization are voting with their feet in terms of to stay on with the organization, and therefore the ratios, among other things, are favorable, positive. You're getting accolades as an employer of choice. It's a safe place to work. So I guess all of these things really put together to kind of add to what your organization has kind of done in order to get the level of merit it has. Okay, so I just want to briefly spend a couple of minutes on some of the best practices and other initiatives that you've undertaken within the organization. So we have, if you can see the slide that that's on screen, this is something that you've shared with us. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about this?
Of course. This is one of our CSR projects where we work with a group of people under the umbrella of the Adivasi Vikas Prabodhini. We call them the Creative People's Project, or CPP for short. And this is a group of about 20-25 youth based out of Pune who are 100% speech impaired and hearing impaired, which means they cannot speak and they cannot hear. And what would happen in the past, Anthony, is they would be pretty much dependent on their family or their friends to move around, or to get by on their day-to-day activities, and pretty much not a very bright future. So under the Creative Peoples Project, we've actually started engaging very, very closely with these people. And we have been able to inculcate in them and teach them some certain life skills. A few life skills that you're seeing are evident on the screen. I mean, we are taking, waste material. You can see things like wood that are discarded from various factories and
Yes.
workshops,
Yes. Hmm.
but waste tires, plastic bottles, etc. All these waste material are actually taken and they are converted into some utility article that you can see, from the
Wow.
picture. And, our people over here, for example, the left side, you can see some of the Harbinger team members actually going and giving them creative ideas on what to make, whether different types of pen stands, different types of clocks, different types of wall hangings. And these products actually are then gone and sold in various corporate organizations. They're gone and sold in Rotary. They're gone and sold in, housing societies. And what is happening is because of the sale, the creative people are getting some kind of income. So that is actually moving them out of situation of being dependent on somebody to being pretty much independent. I think that is something really great. So we started off with, training them and teaching them and inculcating them, skills on how to convert, waste material into something useful. Last couple of years, we've taken it a little higher. So we bought them an embroidery machine and taught them the trade of embroidery. So now they do a little bit of embroidery. But then, me being a food lover, I said, what about cakes and pastries? I mean, everybody loves that. So we taught them baking. We got them an oven and, they started making cakes and they come to Harbinger's office, very, very frequently, sell their cakes and pastries over lunch and tea time. Not only us, I mean, whenever we have a birthday function, the organization, we try to make it a point to order cakes from Creative People Project. And so that's the third thing that we actually started doing. And the most recent one was, which was actually a little sustainable, was we actually bought a kind of a machinery which was designed by one of the creative people, which actually is responsible for making paver tiles. The paver tiles are the tiles that we see on the footpath, and those are made of 100% concrete right now.
Got it.
But they designed an innovative way of mixing, part concrete and part plastic. So whether it's, waste bottles or whether it's plastic bags or all kind of plastic waste, was actually they figured out a way of mixing it with the concrete so that 30% of your paver blocks now are made of, plastic material, and it's as strong as a regular concrete block. And what is actually good is it allows more water to get in the ground. So the water table continues to rise as compared to a regular, concrete block. So moving away from sustainability and life, etc., we're actually getting down into ecological and saving the environment as well. So so that was one thing. What you're seeing on screen may be intriguing to people. This was our Families Day that we had in January of this year. It was called Euphoria. And one of the team members came up with a crazy idea. They said, let's invite creative people to put up a dance. And I said, guys, it's going to be tough, right? I mean, it's going to be very, very challenging because they can't hear. So what music, I mean, how are they going to dance to a beat if they can't hear that? And, how is it going to happen? So that person said, don't worry, let me figure it out. I was really shocked when they came on stage. I was honestly very scared. But we had a group of about 12 to 15 women coming up on stage, and they did a dance, Anthony, perfectly in sync with the song. I was amazed. It was probably better than what you and I can probably do. Completely in sync, completely in beat, in harmony. The emotions were completely in flow. And after that, I went and asked our coordinator that, how did they do it?
How
They
did they
can't.
manage? Yeah.
How did they do it? They can't hear. I mean, we can understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but how did they do it? So he said they learned by vibrations. They learned by the song. They would kind of put up the volume of the song high, and then they would learn from the vibrations. And I found that to be completely amazing.
That's incredible.
So yeah, this is them on stage putting up a show, and it was fantastically, appreciated by the audience. So yeah, we were very happy to give them an opportunity, and they grasped it with all hands and put up a fabulous show.
Wow, that's really incredible. And how about this?
Yeah, those are the paver blocks actually. So this is the contraption that part of the contraption that they've designed. So you can see the mold, and you can see the concrete, and interspersed are pieces of plastic. This is the kind of, it's a vibrating machine that settles and removes the air, and then it's put into baking and setting, and then it's kind of used.
So this is, I'm guessing that these also then therefore last much longer than your regular ones.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous. This is incredible, Neville. I mean, this is just, clearly there's so much stuff that you're all doing in terms of also giving back to the environment that it's really incredible. So, we're almost at an end, in terms of how much time we have, but I just want to take maybe a minute or two more, Neville, and maybe ask you a little bit about, given the times that we are living in with the coronavirus or COVID-19, call it what you will, how are all of you managing in this new environment? The work from home, is your organization able to effectively support your clients in a work from home scenario? How are you as the talent manager for the entire organization? I'm sure this is a very big challenge for you. So can you share some best practices, tips, etc., that those who are watching this webinar can learn and take away in terms of a best practice as to how to deal with the new environment? And that's one. And secondly, do you believe this is here to stay in some shape, manner, or form? Is this the new normal? I mean, are we looking at a lot more flexibility in terms of working from home, because this is probably how organizations are going to be for at least the immediate future, if not the foreseeable future?
Yeah, Anthony, I'd be lying if I said that, it's changed the way in which we work. It completely has. This kind of caught many organizations by surprise. And yeah, we adapted very, very fast. We ensured that all our employees, find ways to work from home. So whether we give them extra laptops, or we would connect their home machines to the desktops or the laptops within the office. We do that in a couple of days' time, so that we made sure that the continuity of work continued and our customers were not hampered. Yeah. But I think in a time like this, when the entire organization is working from home, I think you have to have a little more contact with the employee, because sometimes out of sight becomes out of mind. That's how the saying goes.
True.
So we've done a couple of initiatives to be in touch with our employees. First one is communicate as much as we can. So whether it's on email, whether it's using Zoom, whether it's using Microsoft Teams, continuously be on dialogue with our employees. We also try to make it as business as usual as much as we can. So all our meetings have happened online. All our learning programs that we have, many of them have moved to the webinar form, which is actually very, very good. We never thought of this earlier. I think it's made us think a little differently.
Correct.
Those are some of the things that that we're doing. We're also sending out very important immunity tips to our team members on how they can stay healthy and stay safe during a time like this. We're encouraging them not to get out of place. Our counselor, that we had a counselor in the past, so we've also kind of actively working with our counselor to make sure that in case any of the employees reach out to her, then she can kind of counsel them on anxiety, or the frustrations of staying at work and not going out of the house. So our counselors playing an active role. And another thing that we've done, I think probably could be unique in some ways or some forms, is a program called Vitamin, and it's VI, which is virtual, and MIN, which is mingling. So it's virtual mingling.
Okay.
This is a 30-minute program, Anthony, that we have every day, every working day from 4 o'clock to 4:30. And it opens with our CEO addressing the entire organization. So everybody in the organization joins online. We have a CEO opening the session and talking, sharing some of his thoughts that have happened the last day or so. And then we have other people in the organization coming and sharing their thoughts. It could, and when I say sharing their thoughts, it's not necessarily about work, but it's about some of the things that they like, some of their hobbies. For example, we have polls, we have had quizzes. Yesterday, we had somebody actually making a special kind of mudki bale and giving us the recipe online. We've had someone's son performing on a Casio, and so I mean, it's actually bringing the organization much closer, because had we been in the office, this would have not been possible.
True. That is true.
So this way of virtual mingling, Vitamin, I think is definitely adding, and we've got great response. So I think there are multiple ways in which we're adapting our work. Whether this situation is here to stay, I think yes, it is. I think many organizations will start embracing work from home in a bigger way. It may not be like everybody working from home at one go, but
Right.
I think, work from home is going to become the new norm.
Well, I've been speaking to professionals very similar to you, Neville, and a lot of them are saying that now they're actually looking at, why have they, taken up so much real estate? Why have they built these huge fancy offices when probably a quarter or a fifth or a third of the workforce could just as easily and effectively work from home and save the organization a lot of money as well in the process. So, I think organizations are having a long, hard think about this. And I think people are now coming around to the view that, even if you are virtual, you can still make everybody feel part of the same organization. And I
Right.
think the vitamin program that you just mentioned, it sounds absolutely fascinating. It's a great way to virtually mingle with all your colleagues, and probably is leading to greater mingling than previously in the real world. So all absolutely fantastic practices, Neville. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So we are out of time, and we have to sort of now, we will end this part of the webinar right now. And I'm going to now throw the floor open for questions from all our participants. So as they ask the questions, Neville, I'm going to ask them of you, and then you can respond to the questions as appropriate. So thank you so much for your time thus far, and I look forward to sort of taking it forward with the questions.
Thank you, Anthony.